And I suddenly didn't know what it was going to be like to not have that show in my future and those people in my future.
When the Andy Griffith Show aired in the 1960s, it was more than a sitcom. It was America's moral compass. Andy Taylor was the father the nation needed, honest, wise, and calm. His son, Opie, was the nation's child. Ron Howard, who played Opie, has spent a lifetime praising Andy Griffith, calling him a second father who created a safe and wonderfully creative environment. But Ron Howard also revealed the intense, hidden truth of the set. He admitted Andy Griffith was complicated, and that the entire show's psychological health emanated from Andy. That psychological health was about to be tested. For young Ron Howard, this wasn't just a job. Andy Griffith was a true mentor. He taught Ron professionalism, creativity, and hard work. And the father-son chemistry between Andy and Opie was genuine. Ron was secure, protected, and learning from the man he saw as the perfect role model. But Ron Howard would soon have to learn to separate the perfect man on camera from the deeply complicated man who existed when the cameras stopped. The public saw Andy Taylor. Ron saw Andy Griffith. Andy Griffith himself hated the perfect father image. He famously rejected the persona, telling reporters, "Don't be fooled by that. That is a persona. I am not America's favorite dad. I have many failings. I am a man, just like any other man." Griffith admitted the Andy Taylor character was too good to be real. The real man he spoke of was married, deeply unhappy in that marriage, and known by the crew for a complex, sometimes dark temperament. Young Ron Howard, the boy soaking in moral lessons about honesty from his TV dad, was about to get a very different kind of education. This education in adult complications would begin the moment Opie's new schoolteacher arrived on set. When Annetta Corsout arrived in 1963 to play the new schoolteacher, Helen Crump, she was just supposed to be another character. But for the young Ron Howard, her arrival marked a profound shift in the set's psychological health that he had praised. Years later, Ron Howard would diplomatically describe the adult relationships on set as complicated. That complication began the moment Andy Griffith laid eyes on Annetta. The professional, safe world Opie lived in was about to collide with the very adult, secret life of Andy. On screen, the chemistry was intentional. Helen Crump was written to be Andy Taylor's main love interest, a counterpart to his calm wisdom. The audience loved watching their slow, wholesome romance blossom over the seasons. For Ron Howard, this meant his two main scene partners, his pa and his teacher, were now in a relationship. But the crew quickly realized the sparks weren't just for the camera. The on-screen chemistry exploded into a real-life, off-screen affair. Andy Griffith, the man who embodied American family values on TV, began a passionate relationship with Annetta Corsout while he was still married to his first wife, Barbara Bray Griffith. This wasn't just a rumor. It became the central drama of the set. The perfect father persona was a performance. But his passion for Annetta was real. The man who taught Opie lessons about honesty every week was now living a profound secret. This new dynamic created a charged atmosphere. Ron Howard, a child performer known for his professionalism, was now navigating a world he couldn't possibly have fully understood. He was a kid, surrounded by adults who were acting out a script far more dramatic than anything the Andy Griffith Show ever wrote. He had to perform scenes with his pa and his teacher, all while sensing the invisible, unspoken tension between them. He was, in effect, the child in the middle of a complex adult affair. But this wasn't a secret the crew tried to hide. It was an open secret that everyone on set knew about, and it was about to get much, much louder. If you'd like to support the research we do to uncover deep stories like this one, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means we can continue to bring these untold truths to light. Young Ron Howard was praised for being a pro on set, but no amount of professionalism could shield the young boy from the psychological tension his second father was creating. This wasn't a hidden secret. The affair between Andy Griffith and Annetta Corsat was an open secret that the entire cast and crew knew about. Ron Howard wasn't just aware of the complicated adult relationship, he was living right in the middle of it. This was the moment the safe world of Mayberry shattered for him. Imagine the cognitive dissonance for a child. You film a scene where your TV dad teaches you a heartfelt lesson about honesty and always telling the truth. The director yells, "Cut," and that same man walks off set, past his actual wife's visiting area, and disappears into his trailer with your on-screen teacher, a woman he is not married to. The crew knew exactly what was happening. According to books about the show, it was common knowledge that Andy and Annetta would retreat to his caravan together during lunch breaks. This was the psychological health of the set that Ron Howard said emanated from Andy, an environment charged with secrecy, adultery, and unspoken tension. This was Ron Howard's real education. It wasn't about the moral lessons in the script. It was a daily, practical lesson in adult hypocrisy. He was watching his pa and his teacher, two authority figures in his young life, break the very rules the show claimed to represent, all while his real father was also on set supervising his son. Ron Howard had to learn to navigate this incredibly complicated world. He had to pretend he didn't see what he saw. He had to keep smiling as Opie while Andy and Helen looked at each other with a passion that had nothing to do with the script. He was a child forced to keep an adult secret to protect the show's and Andy's perfect image. This experience forged the professional Ron Howard is today, a man famous for his calm, respectful, and drama-free sets. He saw firsthand how a star's behavior could infect an entire production. But Ron Howard witnessed something far more frightening than a secret affair. The stress and guilt of this relationship often boiled over, revealing a dark temperament in Andy Griffith that was anything but fatherly. Ron Howard wasn't just navigating a complicated adult affair. He was also a child witness to the dark temperament of his second father. The public saw Andy Taylor, the calm, unflappable sheriff who solved problems with wisdom. But the cast and crew, including young Ron, saw Andy Griffith, a man capable of intense, sometimes frightening fits of rage. The psychological health of the set didn't just mean navigating secrets, it meant navigating Andy's mood. Imagine being a 7 or 8-year-old child, small and impressionable, on a professional set. Your job is to hit your marks and remember your lines, but you also have to learn to read the star of the show. You have to sense, is this a fun Andy day or a dark Andy day? This was Ron Howard's reality. He wasn't just learning how to act, he was learning how to survive a volatile workplace. The stress of Andy's unhappy marriage, combined with the intensity of his passionate, open secret affair with Annetta Corsat, often boiled over. This wasn't the calm, measured problem solver from the show. This was a man under immense personal pressure, and the set became his outlet. This wasn't just hushed tension. It was sometimes physically violent. The most infamous incident became a dark legend on the set. In a fit of uncontrolled rage, some accounts attributed to jealousy over Annetta, others to general frustration, Andy Griffith punched a wall. He didn't punch a flimsy set prop, he punched a real wall and broke his hand. Suddenly, the perfect father was genuinely injured, not from an act of heroism, but from an act of his own private fury. This created a massive problem for America's #1 family show. They couldn't hide the injury, his hand was in a cast. So what did they do? They created the ultimate Mayberry illusion. The writers immediately wrote a new story for the show. In the episode, Sheriff Taylor hurt his hand not by punching a wall in anger, but by heroically apprehending 2 criminals. This was the peak of the hypocrisy Ron Howard had to witness. He had to stand there, as Opie, looking up with concern at his pa's bandaged hand. He had to act out the lie, the story of heroism and justice, knowing the truth that the injury came from a moment of dark adult rage. Ron Howard had to act out the lie of the broken hand, but his real performance for 8 years was playing Opie, the innocent child, while navigating a psychological minefield of adult secrets, lies, and rage. He watched his second father live a life that directly contradicted the show's wholesome moral lessons. This complicated experience didn't just teach Ron Howard how to act, it taught him exactly what kind of man he didn't want to be. What happened to the central drama, Andy Griffith's real-life marriage, which had been suffering for years, finally imploded. He and his first wife, Barbara, officially divorced in 1972, long after the affair with Annetta Corsaut had become the set's open secret. The perfect American family, embodied by Andy Taylor, was, in real life, irrevocably broken. But did the on-set lovers, Andy and Annetta, live happily ever after? No. Their passionate, consuming affair, born in secret on the set, continued for a time even after his divorce. But it, too, eventually ended. The relationship that had defined the show's psychological health and caused so much tension did not lead to marriage. The great, secret drama simply fizzled out. The true, lasting legacy of the Andy Griffith Show wasn't the show itself, but the man it produced, Ron Howard. He saw the dark temperament. He saw the fits of rage. He saw how the star's complicated personal life could infect an entire production. Ron Howard learned the ultimate lesson, how not to lead a set. He learned that true professionalism wasn't about projecting a perfect persona, but about creating a genuinely safe, creative, and respectful environment, free of the adult drama he was forced to endure as a child. Today, Ron Howard is famous in Hollywood for being one of the most respected, calm, and beloved directors in the business. His sets are known for being efficient, kind, and completely free of the drama and ego he witnessed. He became, in effect, the real Andy Taylor, the calm, wise leader his pa only played on TV. For decades, Ron Howard has remained perfectly diplomatic, never trashing Andy Griffith or the show. He keeps the open secret safe. Why? Because Andy Griffith may have been complicated, but he also taught Ron Howard his craft. Ron's ultimate silence is his final act of professionalism, protecting the legacy of the man who was both his greatest mentor and his first greatest lesson in hypocrisy. Thank you so much for watching this story with us to the end. It's a powerful story, watching a child grow up with the complicated reality of his perfect father figure. It might just be the experience that best explains why Ron Howard is one of the most respected names in Hollywood today. If this story resonated with you, the biggest way you can support our channel is by hitting that like button. And please, join us in the comments. How do you think what Ron Howard experienced on that set shaped his directing style today? To make sure you don't miss our next deep dive into these untold stories, please subscribe. We'll see you again.